let's talk about emergency preparedness, keto style. Well, first let's get into the basics, and this is something that applies to anyone regardless of what kind of diet you follow. Some things might differ a little bit because different regions have different types of emergencies. There might be tornadoes in your area, flooding, fire, or like here in Florida we have hurricanes as the major disaster to look out for. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people around the world are affected by disasters of some kind. So this is important information so you can be ready in case of an emergency in your area. I can't stress how important it is to have your emergency supplies ready before any type of disaster strikes. I learned this firsthand last year when Hurricane Irma came to Florida. Well, I didn't really have an emergency kit ready, but everyone was scrambling around. The shelves were scraped clean. There was nothing. Forget about finding anything keto friendly. And so I had to resort to things like macaroni and cheese, ravioli, things that were easy to cook and available because there was not much available. Forget about finding water. That was the main thing. We could not find water anywhere. There was certainly chaos in our area. Gas stations were scrambling to service all the customers wanting to fill up their cars, so there finally was no gas available anywhere. So if you wanted to evacuate, that might actually be a problem because you might not find any gas. Some people decided to evacuate a few days before a storm, and unfortunately there was long lines of cars trying to get out of Florida. I myself tried to call around to see if I could find a hotel somewhere, but they were booked solid all the way up in Alabama. So we decided to stay put in our house, which is fairly safe. It's block concrete, one story. We have hurricane shutters, we have hurricane braces in our garage, and a pretty good roof. So that was our decision, and we had our carb food to hold us over for a couple of weeks in case the worst happened and we were out of power for a long time. So the official recommendations is that there should be 1 gallon of water per person in your family for at least 72 hours. 72 hours is a fairly short time, only 3 days. There has been instances of power outages that lasted for a couple of weeks. So my family, we try to be on the safe side, and we have food and water for at least 2 weeks. The 1 gallon per person is also including hygienic needs. Don't forget about your pets. Make sure you have water for them as well. You might want to have some extra options such as mineral water, which has a little bit of electrolytes in it. You might also want to get some electrolyte powders. Look down below for some links to options that are good for an emergency care kit. So the same recommendations apply to food. The official recommendation is 72 hours worth of non-perishable food for every member of your family. And don't forget about the pets here either. Same as with water, I would probably do more than just 3 days. Now, if you live a keto lifestyle, you know, of course, most keto-friendly foods are going to be perishable. Vegetables, eggs, meats, all that stuff needs electricity to stay fresh for more than a few days. And of course you could have a cooler of ice, but also just would last you a couple of days. So the number one rule here would have to be to look for canned options. But I also can't stress how important it is to get foods that you would actually eat even if it was not an emergency, since you're going to have to rotate and replenish the food in your kit as the expiration date nears. I highly recommend that you look into a brand called Keto Meats. You can find these on a link down below. A lot of people actually get these meats as a quick and easy fast food option at home. It actually tastes pretty decent. It doesn't really have much spice to it or anything like that. It's plain, but you can add things to it. I like to have the ground beef in my kit. The all-natural ground beef is great. It only contains beef and sea salt. So what I would do when I have an emergency, I would use my little handy camping stove, and on it I would cook up the beef, and then depending what I'm in the mood for, I would use some add-ins such as a tomato sauce. There's great options out there that are fairly low carb. You might want to get a smaller container like this since you won't use the whole thing and you don't want it to go bad. You can look down below for links to buy Rao's marinara sauce. Is great. It's very low in carbs, and they do have smaller cans also you can get. I also like to get some Alfredo sauce. It's nice and creamy and high in fat. If you feel like it, you can make a Mexican option. You can even just go with a good salsa to mix in. We're not trying to go for gourmet food. We're just trying to make a nice, decent meal that's actually tasty. Some stores you can actually find simple organic simmer sauces, which are great, low in carb, and you can mix these in with the ground beef. It's really nice. Another thing you can do also is mix your meats with coconut cream for extra fat to make a nice creamy dish. And of course, when it comes to vegetables, it can be a little bit hard to find something that's ketogenic friendly, that's canned. My recommendation would be to get green beans, and I think this is the leaf spinach, which is a great option to make it in a creamier sauce, for instance. And then you have regular cut green beans. If you do the Mexican variety, you can add a little bit of diced tomatoes, regular or fire roasted. And there's also asparagus. It's usually widely available as a canned option. Keystone carries a lot of different varieties of meat. You have the ground beef, which is probably the most versatile and easiest to use. But they have also pork, which is more like a kind of almost like a pulled pork type of thing. Not too bad. They have turkey, and they have chicken as well. I opted for a different brand of chicken here because it was on sale when I got it, but chicken is great. You can get these little smoked ham ones. You can actually eat these cold, it's pretty tasty. And of course, all kinds of tuna. And if you so like, you can get sardines. It's a great option. A lot of people love that. One thing you can do when the power goes out is also to make a cold lunch salad, say for instance with smoked ham or chicken, with some mayo. Of course, you can't have a jar of mayo, it's going to go bad. So you would have to use single-use packages. Most commercial mayos have sugar in them. I can recommend Duke's mayo because it does not have sugar. It doesn't have the best of oils in them, but this is an emergency situation. You want to have an option that does not kick you out of ketosis. This is it. There's a link down below to check this out. Don't forget some healthy fats such as coconut oil, which does not need to be refrigerated after opening. You definitely want to have that on hand. And all the stuff here is all you really need. You can make great meals. You can come up with some other ideas yourself, but I would recommend having a basic supply of the meat. If you're out in good time before a disaster, you can most likely find tuna, salmon, and chicken in most grocery stores. You would have to go online for the Keystone meats, so make sure you check out the link down below to where to buy that. So that was some basics that's great to have on hand to making lunch and dinners while having a power outage or emergency of some kind. If a power outage lasts more than just a few days, you will start feeling miserable, so having some of your most favorite keto-friendly snacks on hand will do wonders. I recommend you stock up on things like maybe Quest protein chips. These are great. It tastes like real tortilla chips. Does not affect your blood sugar, and they're great to munch on. I also highly recommend that you get a few Quest bars to have on hand. These are great little snacks, especially for an emergency situation, and if you have to evacuate, these are great on the go. If you like pork rinds, I would highly recommend you stock up on some of your favorites so you have those around. Pork crackers is also a great option. Another great option for a crunchy snack is cheese crisps. There's all kinds of different varieties, brands, and flavors on the market nowadays. These are great options, so I highly recommend you stock up on these. Nut butter is really satisfying. I would get peanut butter, almond butter, macadamia butter, whatever you prefer. One thing that can be hard to get is regular cheese, so I recommend you look into the Laughing Cow. They have this little single package that you can use for a little dip with the pork rind maybe. Very satisfying. Of course, we have beef jerky and these little smoked sausages. These are great options for snacking. Here is bacon jerky. This one you can actually find on Walgreens. It's their own brand. It's actually really good, and it has no excessive sugar in it. Pickles and olives are great options, especially if it's hot. It's important to keep your electrolytes replenished. That would be a good option. Trader Joe's have these great seaweed snacks. You can get them at regular flavor or wasabi. There is 0 carbs in those. Just make sure you have some of your favorite snacks around that will make you feel better during a stressful time. It might also be good to have a bottle of MCT oil on hand. If you're into coffee, you can put it in your coffee. If you cook coffee on your camp stove, it'll give you a great energy. You also want to get some kind of electrolyte replacement if you're in a hot climate. This one doesn't really have a flavor, a little bit salty, just squirt it in. Then I have linked below that are flavored and sweetened with stevia if you prefer that. When it comes to cooking during an emergency situation, if you have a propane stove at home, great, then you're good and set to go. You probably also have a grill, so you can use that. But for regular cooking, I can highly recommend you get a small camping stove like this one. And also stack up on several of these small canisters of fuel. That way you'll be able to cook whatever you have on hand in your emergency kit. You can make coffee. You'll feel a lot more comfortable having a hot meal once or twice a day. If the power goes out, the first thing you want to do is finish off any perishable food you have in the refrigerator. You would also need a good lighter. I recommend you get a couple of these. They're great to have around. I also highly recommend you get a bunch of paper plates and bowls, because during an emergency there might not be any water pressure, but either way you're not probably going to be in the mood for doing dishes, so I recommend you get some of that, and also some plastic utensils. Don't forget to make sure you have garbage bags on hand so you can collect all the trash. One rookie mistake is to forget can opener. When my husband and I, about 20 years ago, were living in an apartment, we had an unexpected storm that was not a named storm. No one really knew where it came from, but we had no power for almost a week, and we also had nothing at home. We had no batteries, candles, flashlights, no food, and no can opener. Since this was such an unexpected storm, every store in our area ended up closing, and there was nothing open to go and buy some food. Finally, we found this little Chinese place that had a generator running, and they were serving. So we were eating Chinese food for about a week. So don't do that mistake. Make sure you have your emergency kit ready and that you have a can opener. That's not electric. Of course, you should have things on hand such as extra batteries for any devices that you need that. A few good flashlights. I can really highly recommend you get a few of these headlamps, because when you're doing stuff and it's dark outside and you have no power, I learned from my Girl Scout days, these are invaluable. You probably want to get a nice lantern so you have a larger source of light for your family. Another item that a lot of you might not think of to have on hand is an old-fashioned radio. This guy can be cranked if you run out of batteries. It has a light source in it, a flashlight, it has a weather band radio, and it has all kinds of things that are helpful to have. This was our lifeline to the outside world during Irma last year. After the storm had passed, there was no electricity, we had no means of checking on the news, we didn't know what was going on, so this is a great comfort item to have, knowing that they were working on the cleanup, and we also knew which roads were closed. We knew we couldn't get out of our neighborhood just yet. It's an essential item. Make sure you have all your important documents in a waterproof pouch. I keep mine in a Ziploc bag in a fireproof safe. If you're in a situation where you know disaster might be happening soon, you want to make sure you have any type of prescription medications your family are taking on hand. Most insurance companies allow for early refill if something like a hurricane is on its way. An emergency situation can of course change very quickly, and you might have to evacuate from your area. I would recommend that you have a go bag ready. This bag should contain the most essential items for you and your family. Don't forget about your pets. It should also contain copies of your most important documents. Don't forget about medications. And this bag can be stored in, say, for instance, a closet near your front door, so it's easy to grab and go. I hope you never have to actually use any of this information, but like most people, you'll probably experience at least a longer power outage sometime. You'll be very thankful that you have prepared for your family and you have an emergency kit ready, and that you can stay on your ketogenic lifestyle while you're waiting the storm or whatever natural disaster or power emergency that you are experiencing. Good luck. Thank you.